Wakey, wakey, rise and shine. It is AEW time on a Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. It was Wednesday yesterday, and you know what that means. Dynamite was back. And even better news for a Dynamite this week, or even better news for one of our good friends, Gary Joe, who had the VIP AEW experience. I hope you had a really good time, my man. I'm going to message you as soon as I finish this to see how it all went. I saw the video he posted with Speedball Bailey as well, which was tremendous. So I hope you really had a great VIP experience, my man. But look, we're getting close to Dynasty. Lots of matches have been made as well from Dynasty, unsurprisingly, with it being AEW. But AEW, I always say on this program, don't I? Start the show hot. And they did. They started with the number one contendership match. Now, if you remember last week on Dynamite, Kenny Omega, Swerve Strickland put this match together. It was Swerve's number one contendership versus Kenny Omega's EVP status. Great match. I thought it was smart putting this first on AEW. That was a great call to begin with. They gave AEW gave them plenty of time to do the storytelling of the match, which I thought was fantastic from AEW. I really thought that was really important, and Omega dominated the early stages of this match as well until Strickland hit him with that low blow, and then the power driver on the ringside barricade, for God's sake. Unbelievable. Yeah, the action in AEW, we all know, is second to none. And, it was an incredible, incredible match that these guys put on. And as we become accustomed and AEW and what they're doing, and they're on a roll, massive roll, 18 months now, solid, best promotion without foul and without even argument now. And this match was great. As part of me wanted to see Strickland and MJF for the championship. I did kind of know where we were going on this, and it was the one-winged angel that gave Kenny Omega the victory and the number one contendership for the heavyweight championship. Now, more on that in a minute. You have to bear with me today. I'm slightly under the weather. I'll be drinking a lot of coffee through this. If I do cough, I apologize as I continue with the review. It's a little bit of a crap feeling right now. Anyway, excuse me. So, Kenny Omega's number one contender, and he will take on MJF. It was just a matter of when. We'll get to that in a minute. But my other thoughts on this are that I could see Swerve costing Kenny the World Heavyweight Championship. I feel that's a possibility, if I'm honest with you. Obviously, MJF's got a lot of targets right now. Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin being one of them, and more on him later on. And funnily enough, there was a video package that played for Darby, uh, as he's getting ahead of his no count out match with Roosh later on. We haven't seen Roosh in ages. I'm going to do this thing on that. Hopefully, we'll do the this week in wrestling on Sunday with David, and I'm going to little bits and pieces from AEW that I'm going to save for that particular show. So we're going to talk about wrestlers we haven't seen in a while. So that's going to be one of them. But yes, he's got a no count out match with Roosh later on in the evening. Bruv, Mr. Osprey was a video package on this, and he laid out the challenge. Oh boy, as he laid out the challenge to Moxley for Dynasty. He wants John Moxley, and it's funny enough. He's so he well before we get to that, he's also said that he wants Pac in Winnipeg, which I'm sure is next week or the week before after, and. So recall that Pat called him a prick when they met years ago, which was interesting. But he did actually thanks Mox for a little bit because he said that him putting him on the shelf gave him some time to spend with his son, which was very nice. But he said that no amount of gratitude and personal time will change how he feels now. And basically, he wants him a dynasty motherfucker. There you go. And that rolls nicely into Skyflight versus the aforementioned John Moxley. Apologies again. Being a little bit under the weather. I've got to do NWA in a little while as well. But yes, it was a Death Riders. It was Moxley and Garcia against Skyflight. My only feeling about this uh, is that it went way too longer than what it should be. And I feel as if what AEW need to start doing is uh, is actually looking at the whole picture, right? You've just had Will Ospreay call out Mox, and what they should have done, in my opinion, was have the Death Riders go out there and decimate Skyflight. That was my opinion. That's what I was even expecting. But what they did do was kind of turn it into a 15-minute struggle between both sides, which I feel is unnecessary. And I feel it makes Mox look weaker than what they should do. Mox should be going into Dynasty looking like a killer in a lot of ways. Having him struggle with Danny Garcia in this match to beat Skyflight was a little bit concerning, in my opinion. He's going into facing Will Ospreay, who's going to want to kill him. There's no two ways about that. So why would you have? Why would Moxley not go out and decimate Skyflight? They had this 15-minute match between both. Skyflight ain't really doing much either right now. So I feel like, again, they should have made this shorter and they should have put more. It should have just been 3, 4, 5 minutes tops. Death Riders. The finish was fine. I mean, Garcia made Darius Martin submit with the Dragon Tamer. But again, going back to this, and it kind of contradicts what I've been saying recently. Recently, I've been saying that I feel that Um, Garcia needs to be picking up the wins, and Wheeler Yuta would need to pick up the wins. I feel like this week it really should have been Moxley that got the pin. So I know that it kind of, well, you've been saying this for so long, and you don't like them being the fall guys, and they need to win more, and they need to get the 1, 2, 3s, and now they got the 1, 2, 3. You're not agreeing with it. I just feel that Moxley's in a storyline at the moment, and for them not to give him the pin doesn't make sense, in my opinion. Anyway, it's only my opinion, but the Death Riders won, which is fine. And Moxley did say that he's going to accept Will Ospreay's challenge for Dynasty, which is shaping up to be a hell of a show. By the way, I'm really looking forward to Dynasty, and he wasn't very happy with Ospreay dropping the F bomb either. Mox, come on, seriously. Bucks were on a promo. They want to recapture the tag team championships in 2026. So that'll be interesting. We'll get to the tag division very, very shortly. We got to Mike Bailey versus Rocky Romero on Dynamite next. Showcase, man. This is everything that the Death Riders match should have been. So when you look at it, sorry again for the constant coughing. So when you look at it, maybe having two of them in a row, you could argue, maybe you could argue this should have been on Collision for, especially with the Death Riders going on. Because this was a speedball showcase. This was all about the speedball. He picked up the victory with the ultimate weapon. To be quite honest, he completely missed it. But there we go. I can't really, say any more than that. It was what it was. It was a showcase match, but I feel that you should have put this on Collision and done exactly what you've done here with the Death Riders and Skyfly. In my opinion, that works better. But that's just my humble opinion. Of course, the Devil was back in AEW this week. MJF back in a Dynamite ring. He tells the fans to be quiet because he's on the mic. He said he's the man that hanged Hangman. Well, that's pretty true, to be honest with you. I don't think there's anything too skeptical about what he said there. And he said he still holds the world title and that no one else deserves it more than him. However, that brings out Kenny Omega. And what they do get is it's set up for Dynasty, MJF, Kenny Omega, the devil and the god are clicking together at Dynasty. It is on MJF, Kenny Omega, AEW World Heavyweight Championship at Dynasty. It was meant to be well, Kenny Omega offered a handshake, and it's never going to happen, was it? MJF just walks away, leaves Kenny to it to do his signature goodnight bye and bid you adieu and whatnot. We go to Christian and Cope. Now, obviously, we're going about the tag division, and this was a brilliant segment. They were talking about FTR, and Christian said, they power drove his wife and he left her with a serious injury. And he went, but you know what? More importantly than that, they power drove me. And Cope was like, what? And he was like, he's an arsehole. He went, but you know what? I know two bigger arseholes. And that, of course, he's referring to FTR. And Cope and Christian are promising to end the careers of FTR at Dynasty. Well, we'll find out if that happens. But you look at the card and you got Cope and Christian and FTR for the tag titles, Osprey and Mox, Omega MJF for the World Heavyweight Championship. This is going to be stacked to high heaven. Of course, FTR have to have a rebuttal. Basically, they called Cope and Christian dead weight. They mentioned that Christian was a nostalgia act. And he also that he admired Beth Copeland, but if he could drop his wife on a head, just imagine what he's going to do to him at Dynasty. And just as much as the top guys were going to go out come Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong. Roderick Strong now fully fledged conglomeration member. But they had a battle on their hands as they have the Dogs, Clark Connors and David Finlay in action here. Solid tag team match. Really good nod on commentary to Fit Finlay this week as well. Really like that. Nice touch from AEW. Just a side note, isn't it great to see Finlay's sons doing great in both companies? You know, Fit Finlay is still a legend in the business, and it's really great to see. I really like the fact that his sons are out there and are doing it. William Regal's son as well. They're both, all three of them, doing fantastically well. The interesting part for me that pre-match where the Cassidy and Roderick Strong interrupted FTR at the back end of that, you kind of think whether or not they're going to be in the tag team title hunt eventually. Maybe they're next in line. Maybe if Cope and Christian don't get the job done, they would be there. Don't know. Interesting. However, it was the Dogs that got the job done. Clark Connors spear off the top rope while Orange Cassidy was hoisted on to David Finlay's shoulders. A much needed win, in my opinion, for the Dogs. They'd come in, they had the feud with Darby. Darby ended up winning that, which is kind of dropped the momentum a little bit, but it's now coming back up there this week. And great to see the Dogs. They're going to be major players in AEW, in my opinion, if they do it right. Hell of an acquisition for AEW, like a lot of things, a lot of signings they've made in 2026. And looking forward to seeing what's in the Dogs' future in AEW. Hopefully, some gold in the future of the Dogs. Speaking of the tag champions, we went to the women's tag team champions, who are now called the Divine Domination, Dominion. Sorry, the Divine Dominion. That's Lana Cross and Megan Bain, and they were just basically celebrating their win over Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale. And from there, we go to the prototype. And he was celebrating, of course, a successful defense on Collision against Robbie Eagles, his mentor. Obviously, we know a lot about Robbie Eagles. We get told a lot about him on the Independent Showcase series Down Under recently. Kind of like it was a full circle moment that he's undefeated in 2026, and that is something that the number one contender and the world heavyweight champion can't claim to be. The camera then goes to Takeshita, and they don't like Omega. Fletcher knows that Takeshita doesn't like Prot fucking hell, Protocada, and that he reaffirms though that he's bond with Fletcher, referring to their tag team as Proto Takesha. Fuck, come on, make it easier for me, please. Oh my God. Uh, you can imagine what I was like listening to that. Crazy. AEW Women's World Championship now. Thekla against Mina. I'm not even going to go there. Um, Thekla's AEW Women's Championship run is running a bit controversial at the moment. I mean, this was a win for Thekla. Wasn't going to be anything else but a win. I would have liked it to maybe have been cleaner because she did use the brass knuckles to pick up the victory. And I just feel that if you're gonna defend the championship, having DQ wins isn't the way forward. Yes, it keeps Mina strong, but it also makes your champion weak. And perhaps having the eliminator matches instead would have may have been a bit better on here. And with Tony Storm out, now we don't know. There's not an injury. I've heard rumors that it's Broadway calling for Tony Storm, and she's going to be doing some stuff on Broadway. Is what the latest was. I know there was a lot of pregnancy rumors out there as well, but that is also as plausible as the Broadway. And she's such a great actress in what she does that it wouldn't be surprising if it was Broadway. But I just feel that without Tony Storm and looking at that division and the women that are there at the minute, is there a real credible threat to Thekla? The only person that I could potentially see as a credible threat right now, obviously Megan Bain is busy with the tag championships, and so is Layla Cross, is perhaps a return to AEW of Mercedes Moné. Because everyone else is kind of, if they're not being used, you could have looked at the Britt Bakers of this world and people like that. But if you look at, you know, the women on there at the minute, I know Mercedes is away from AEW. She lost more championships this week to Alexis Falcon. I just feel that like there isn't really a credible threat to her. The Brawling Birds, maybe, but again, they're tag teaming, so you don't really want to, and they're just a new tag team, so you don't really want to upset that apple cart. You could see the Brawling Birds go against the Divine Dominion later on, maybe as early as Dynasty. I don't know. But yeah, I'm a bit, looking at it now, and I look at the division. It'd be something for me and Dave to talk about on Sunday. Who are the real sort of opportunity? Who's next in line, and is there a credible threat to Thekla right now? Who knows? Anyway, next week on Dynamite, of course, you can't have a World Heavyweight Championship match without having the contract signing, which in general terms normally goes tits up and they have a fight. Well, what's been said is that if the match will be called off if they engage in any physicality. So you can imagine what MJF's going to do everything in his power to get Kenny Omega to lay a finger on him and call this match off. We'll see if it happens. However, Speedball Bailey showed up and he wants to be first in line to Kenny Omega should he defeat Maxwell Dynasty, and Kenny accepts. He went, but I'm accepting not as the god of professional wrestling. No, I'm accepting as the AEW World Champion. Nice. Ricochet was back this week. Bit of controversy about him, as we all know. There was a bit of a controversy of him in the Gates of Agony as well, because he shoved them after his loss. He lost that battle royal with 21 wrestlers in it, so that was his excuse. He was never pinned nor submitted, yet Jack Perry walked away with that championship. And he said the last time that he faced Perry one-on-one, he walked out the winner. So we'll looks like we may be heading towards a one-on-one match between Jack Perry and Ricochet, maybe at Dynasty, which would stack that card up even more than it's already stacked with only 3 or 4 matches announced. In terms of Ricochet and what he said, yes, that was very, very unacceptable. There's being a heel, and there's taken it too far. I don't know if there's been any repercussions in from management in AEW. I don't agree with the death threats, the shit and the shit that everyone's been sending his girlfriend or fiance, or was it his wife? I don't know, Samantha. Way out of line. Way out of line. She didn't say it. Okay, so geez, I hate it when this happens because they always target the people, the innocent in this. Samantha's the innocent party, and yet you've targeted her for no reason. Ricochet should have been reprimanded by AEW, and I think maybe he has. But at the same time, he shouldn't have said what he said. And he did apologize eventually. Apparently, Chris Hero was the one that called him. But, it was a shitty thing to say. That's simple as that. But anyway, enough of that. Main event, Dynamite, Roosh, Darby Allin, no count out. And you can imagine this match from the bell was nuts. Absolutely crazy. Roosh literally ragdolled Darby for a lot of it. Darby, I mean, Jesus, the amount of bumps this guy takes. I mean, fuck. It was incredible the amount of bumps that he took. I can't really go into it. You'd have to see it for yourself. Darby Allin is just an absolute nutcase. He really, really is. Now he did pick up the victory, caught Rooch off guard with the pinfall, but it was more than what happened after this match. And there was a massive post-match beatdown on Darby Allin from the Don Callis family. You remember MJF gets him to do his dirty work, and it seems as though they're absolutely doing the dirty work for him. And he got this big, I mean, Archer threw him around, a choke slam, and then he got hit with like a, can't quite remember actually. I think he got hit with a power driver from Mark Davis on the outside of the ring. It was quite funny. Andrade was arguing actually with Don Callis on the inside of the ring for this, as Lance Archer plants Darby Allin with a choke slam to end the show, and it was just like it lying in there. Darby Allin's like dead at this point, but it does make me wonder because I was thinking we're going to be going to maybe all in with Darby Allin, with sorry, Kenny Omega as the world champion, and perhaps Kenny and Will would go one-on-one for that world heavyweight championship. Maybe that match will still happen, but it won't be for the world heavyweight championship. And perhaps at All In, Darby Allin fulfills his dynasty, no pun intended, and becomes AEW world champion at All In. Have you thought about that? Has anyone thought about that? I don't know. But we'll find out. But what a show. Again, AEW constantly delivering the opening contest, the main, and the main event matches carried this. A lot of excitement from the fans of AEW on this. Obviously, several dynasty matches were made. Stuff coming out of tonight's show. Obviously, we've got the contract signing next week as well. I would say that in between that, little bit underwhelming. Like I mentioned, I feel Death Riders. I feel as if the Speedball match could have been moved off. You could have had the Death Riders easily beat Skyflight. You maybe could have put another match there. But it could have just been a longer match. Speedball could have had a longer match with Rocky Romero for that fact, and just had one, match. Just had the Death Riders. I just feel the Death Riders would have made more sense them easily beating Skyflight rather than what we had. But overall, another brilliant Dynamite that we all saw this week, and I'm looking forward to it again next week. Coming up on here, of course, NWA Power Review will be out later on today. TNA coming up tomorrow as well. Interviews again. Robbie Thorpe interview will be on the channel a little bit later on. The Australian sensation, born in Britain, made in Melbourne. He will be on the show. We're going to be starting a new season of Independent Showcase. Bonnie Scotland with our good friend and lovely co-host Fiona Lochran will be joining us on the show for that. We can't wait for that. We can't wait to see you again soon. But until then, follow us everywhere at HTT Buckle. And of course, you guys all stay elite, stay safe, and goodbye.